approve this message.
All right. How about that? I think that was a solid introduction to Marianne Williamson, to her run. Clearly very inspired by Bernie Sanders. And it appears, at least to me, that she has progressed in her views over the last several years. As there was even a point during the 2020 primary where she was asked about universal health care and the eradication of private health insurance. And she kind of flip flopped on the idea of Medicare for all based on that. So hopefully now she's a little more clear in her positions. And as I said, her platform's on the website. It's fantastic. I mean, I got no issues with the platform. But this is not really important right now if there's not even a shot at all at anything. So look, I'm gonna get to she's an appearance in the press and everything, and I'll get to that in some amazing headlines. But is this a serious run? The jury, I think, is still out. Because look, has she been building this for a couple of years? Has it been in the planning stages? Has she been trying to build a movement? Has she been in contact with unions? Has she been in contact with other progressive groups in an attempt to try and start with this big push and have everyone behind her? I don't have the answer to that. It doesn't appear that she has, but maybe she has. Maybe she's tried to do that and it hasn't worked out. So far, I haven't really seen that. So it's hard to know how much meat there really is behind this. That said, even if, regardless of the motivation, I don't think this is the case, but let's just say for a second that Marianne Williamson is only doing this to sell her books. The motivation behind what she is doing here doesn't matter as much as the potential impact of a run like this, especially if the media covers it properly. So my point here being that Marianne Williamson and her run here, her challenge to Joe Biden, if it's covered enough and isn't just forgotten about after this week, has the potential to move the conversation in a Democratic primary where Joe Biden, isn't immediately just talking about, trying to reach out to the right wing, which is ridiculous. He should try to get out people that don't normally vote out to vote. And you do that with a proper economic message, as Marianne Williamson did in that video. But with Williamson potentially challenging him from the left here, and again, if there's proper media coverage, it could then move Joe Biden to have to address many of those issues that are being addressed by Marianne Williamson. So regardless of what you think about Marianne, regardless of what you think her motivations are or anything, this is a net positive. There's no downside to her doing this. And the idea that, it's going to hurt Joe Biden in the general election. This is a talking point that has been discredited again and again and again. The idea, for example, people say, Bernie Sanders hurt Hillary Clinton in the general. You actually go and look at Bernie supporters, the vast majority of them that voted for Bernie in the primary ended up voting for Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump. So those voters understand that even if they don't get the person they want, they have to vote as a defensive mechanism against the creeping authoritarianism of the right wing. So I have no worries about this hurting Joe Biden in a general election. To me, that's all just a ridiculous talking point. But the most likely scenario here, I think, is that this could change the conversation. Again, if the media actually covers her, which is going to be, I think, the biggest issue. So they're covering her right now. At least there's headlines about it right now. But I don't know if that's going to continue. The other barrier to Marianne really making any traction here is the fact that she is not in government. So you could say, Marianne Williamson running just like, Bernie Sanders was a long shot candidate in 2016. Yeah, but Bernie was a senator. Bernie had been in Congress since the early 90s. So I don't think that's a proper comparison. And then you may say, but Donald Trump wasn't a politician at all, and he became president. Yeah, but we're talking about the right wing. So I think, their motivations for voting are a little different generally than Democratic voters, especially primary voters. So you're talking about people in primary voters who generally want somebody who they are being told is electable. So I think the Democratic voter base, especially when it comes to the primary, is a lot more susceptible to mainstream media narratives. And that's going to hurt Marianne Williamson, as I'm going to show you here with some of these headlines, which are all, again, very eerily similar. But let me get to quickly. This is just a quick clip from her appearance on ABC this week about why she wants to run for president. I think I'll just sit here as I play it.
Why do you want to be president?
I want to be president because this country needs to make an economic U-turn. And the system that effectuates and perpetuates that kind of income and opportunity inequality is not changing itself. It tweaks itself every once in a while. There's some incremental change. But the devastation, the ubiquitous economic despair and human devastation that is produced by this sociopathic economic system is not changing. And it's not going to change if we continue to elect the same old same.
Why do you want?
I think she is a fantastic orator. She delivers her point there perfectly. And her analysis of what the problem is completely accurate. So I love, no issue at all with the point that she is making with her platform. I think all of that is perfect. It's just a matter of, are people going to actually take her seriously when she is not in government? Again, as Democratic primary voters, historically, they don't take someone like this seriously. That could change, but so far we haven't seen any evidence of that. Now, let me get to showing you. I got some headlines here. These are hilarious in how they frame this announcement. CNN Politics. Marianne Williamson formally launches likely long-shot Democratic primary challenge to Biden. Now you could say, well, David, this is accurate. Even you're saying she has a very low chance at beating Biden here. But when you are announcing news, you don't insert your own ideas about what that means. This is just Marianne Williamson is launching her run as a Democratic primary challenge against Joe Biden. That's the news. But you're going to see a theme here, a pattern here. NBC News. Marianne Williamson announces another long-shot presidential bid. The Guardian. Marianne Williamson officially launches long-shot 2024 presidential campaign. The Hill. Marianne Williamson officially launches long-shot bid for 2024. Again, this is supposed to be news, not, an op-ed, not opinions, but they're all inserting their opinion here. And the AP, which is really supposed to, they're really supposed to be about just the facts, just the news. Marianne Williamson begins long shot 2024 challenge to Biden. Now, I got to give a credit here to Axios and the New York Times. Axios here with the headline, Marianne Williamson announces 2024 presidential bid. This is how you do actual reporting, actual journalism. And the New York Times here, Marianne Williamson wants a debate. Kicking off her second presidential campaign, the self-help author called President Biden a weak choice and said Democrats shouldn't fear a primary. Good stuff. So if you want a little more, she has about a 30-minute speech here. It's a good speech, but largely what she said was summarized in her announcement video that I just showed you. So there's no point showing you the speech in my opinion, but it's a good speech. Again, reiterates a lot of the same points. I don't know. So look, in terms of a primary, look, if I had the option, if she's actually going to be on the ballot in the primary in every state, and you have the option, Biden or Marianne Williamson, and there may be more that jump in the race, but so far Marianne or Joe, it's clear that at least I would vote for Marianne Williamson. Not even close in a primary. There's no, why wouldn't you? So I hope there's enough people like me out there. I tend to think not. And then look, we can have a larger discussion about how she would do it in a general election, but I don't think those conversations are really even worth having until we get closer to seeing how Marianne is actually performing against Joe Biden in polling and if there is an actual shot here. We'll see. But I don't know. I hope more people jump in. It's worth having that conversation, worth having that challenge, and it's worth attempting here to push Joe Biden in a more, economically conscious, more progressive direction that actually speaks to the needs of working class individuals.